quite a stunning scene. Among the most disquieting bits of news today were signs that the FBI had the names of two of the people who were involved, or at least appear to have been involved in the hijacking, and that they may have been tied to another terrorist attack and to one of the world's most prominent terrorists. One of our national correspondents, CNN's Eileen O'Connor, is part of the team that has been working on the investigative side of the story. And Eileen joins us now. Good evening.
Good evening, Aaron. Well, as you said, very disturbing and has just increased the sense of urgency this investigation has. Investigators seek accomplices and associates of the hijackers, people they believe perhaps are also people who may have been trying to hijack other planes and were thwarted in their attempt or were helping the hijackers. This is like an enormous puzzle, investigators are telling me. Actually, more like 3 or 4 puzzles all jumbled together. They have people all over the world, Aaron, finding pieces, trying to fit them together. And they're also digging back into puzzles they thought they'd already solved, finding pieces they missed. What's really disturbing now, exhausted as they are, is that these pieces didn't fit together earlier in time to prevent these tragedies.
They booked the tickets on American Airlines Flight 77 from Washington to Los Angeles on Travelocity, using a New Jersey address, mailboxes, etc. And names U.S. officials confirm were known to them: Khalid al-Midhar and Salim al-Hamzi. Once on board, together with al-Hamzi's brother and an old roommate, a known pilot, they took over the flight, crashing it into the Pentagon. Within minutes, the facade of a symbol of American strength crumbled. As the search and rescue efforts continue, sources say the FBI was informed that Khalid al-Midhar and Salim al-Hamzi were associated with Osama bin Laden and the bombing of the USS Cole. One source confirms al-Midhar was seen on surveillance tape in Malaysia, meeting with the suspect in that bombing.
One was kind of short and the other two was tall.
Al-Midhar was a frequent visitor of al-Hamzi and his brother Nawak in the San Diego apartment complex.
It was always together. If they left, it was together. They come back, they're together.
They hung out a lot at the pool, despite telling their neighbors they were studying at a nearby college.
You'll see 3 of them in the pool swimming, or you'll see the dude always looking out the window, another one outside the door on the phone.
At one point, they left, telling one landlord they were in Arizona, living in different cities at different addresses. As it turns out, rooming with another hijacker aboard that plane, Hani Hanjour. Hani attended this flying school, CRM, Cockpit Resource Management, but left without a certification.
He's kind of a waste of time. He wouldn't show up for flights on time, didn't do his homework.
Not a promising student, but skilled enough to carry out the mission.
And what is really frustrating and confusing to these investigators, slowing down their job, Aaron, is the fact that many of these men may have used aliases, may have used the same names, and also used very similar names. So it's really confusing things, because as you come up with computer records, you're not really sure. They might have the same names, but are these really the same men? Aaron?
Well, that's the problem in part. I mean, here they have these names, presumably, perhaps they're the same people. Are they, in Washington, investigators second-guessing intelligence sources and their effectiveness here? Or is that just hindsight?
Well, what they are doing is going back over everything, and we're talking about incidences all the way back into the 1980s. I mean, this is a tragedy of such huge proportions that nobody wants to really be pointing fingers at each other. It's just too serious. But certainly there is a sense of frustration that perhaps there were some pieces that were missed before. Perhaps they had one piece and another piece was over there, and they just didn't get it together in time. Aaron?
And how long were these guys living in San Diego?
They were living there, in fact, on and off for several years, and at some point, as I said, they lived in Arizona. And tonight, in fact, I've just confirmed with sources that a man who may have been, may be the brother of the al-Hamzis looks to be, he is in custody. I've confirmed this tonight on an INS violations. Police are looking at him, but again, he may be the brother. Again, it could be a case of mistaken identity. So They are, though, seeking accomplices of these men. They know that there are still people on the ground, Aaron, who had to have helped them in this hijacking and in all of this tragedies, putting these planes into these buildings. Aaron?
And just going back to where you began, Eileen, this putting together these pieces of the puzzle, more and more it looks like when you get all of the pieces together, you get the face of Osama bin Laden.
You do, and also you get the very broad face of his support, and that is what is very scary to investigators. I mean, what's happening here, Aaron, is you're seeing links to groups in Pakistan, Algeria. I've picked up a name today that could be a Chechen name. We're also seeing links back to Lebanese, the bombing of the Beirut embassy in the early 80s, and that's a Lebanese connection. So all of these connections are very disturbing because it shows that these groups have somehow come together and united, and that is certainly a very daunting opponent. Aaron?
It is indeed, Eileen. Thank you. Thank you for your work today. All of this is a good thing to keep in mind, how broad this all is as we go along in the broadcast tonight and start to talk about the military options, the possibilities. It's not just simply hitting a village somewhere. You've got people spread out over a wide area.